Hi, I'm Tim. Join me in this video as we discuss the Volantex P-51D 4-channel RC model airplane. Let's get to it. The P-51D was one of the premier U.S. fighters in World War II, serving in both the Pacific and European theater. It was liked by pilots, very effective fighter, and when you added external wing tanks, as you can see in this picture here, it could fly very long distances to escort the bombers to their targets. This is a Volantex RC 4-channel P-51D Mustang aircraft. It's a nice little model. I think it presents itself very well. A quick overview, a 4-bladed prop, which is very nice. It's a press fit on the prop. 4 channels. You notice the ailerons are pretty close in, also where the flaps would be. Normally ailerons are out here. The reason for that is they want to use a single servo to control both ailerons, so that's fine. Throttle through the electronic speed control. It has a rudder and an elevator, and even this little tail wheel is tied to the rudder. You can see that when we turn the rudder, the tail wheel moves as well. So that's a pretty impressive little touch. I like it a lot. The battery compartment is here. The electronics are all inside. I haven't seen that. Just exhaust holes for cooling. Canopy, a pilot. Overall, a pretty nice presentation. Now, normally with something like this, I do an unboxing. This is the box that it came on, the P-51D Mustang. In this day and age, these ready-to-fly model airplanes, you get a lot of information from the boxes, from the websites, as well as the directions. The directions are quite good for this model as well. So the important thing is it does have an X-Pilot gyro system. We'll talk about the gyros a little bit. That'll help a lot with smoothing out the flight. They have a thing called one-key aerobatic, where you push a button on top of the transmitter and then you move the ailerons of the elevator. It automatically does a stunt like that. I'm not a big fan of these one-key aerobatics. You're a pilot, just fly the airplane. If you want to do a loop. But that's there, I think, more as a marketing than anything else. It is fully assembled. It does have a brushless motor, which is nice. So I just wanted to show you this box because on the unboxing, there's nothing to unbox really. The model comes out like this. You've got to insert the landing gear, which is pretty easy to do. There's little slots that the wire goes into. That's not hard. The tail wheel is a similar thing. The prop, the directions mentioned nothing about the prop. They actually give you a spare prop, which is kind of nice. But what happens is just a plastic fitting here with the mating structure on the motor. You just push it on, there's a little click and the motor's on. I think the idea behind this is if there's damage, it lands on the ground, the prop can come off without hurting the motor. The problem is it may come off at an inopportune time. I'd kind of prefer to have something screwed on, but that's not going to happen with this model. It's just the way it is. The model weighs about 6.5 ounces, so that's under the 8.8 ounces. There's no registration or remote ID required for this model, and it seems to balance out pretty good at the point where it is. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out, this one came with a very nice 4-channel transmitter. Again, just elevator up, down, roll, left, right, throttle, then rudder. This is the gyro switches here, and they very nicely included a toggle switch. Some will have a rocker switch, which is very hard to interpret. And there's a little diagram here. So all the way back is expert. That means the gyros are off. You're flying everything. It's going to be very twitchy. Partial gyros, and the beginner, you'll see when we plug it in, that's the full gyros here. So that's a good memory jogger. This is that aerobatic switch where you push the button and then you move the control surface to do a quick roll or loop. If you want to experiment with that, go ahead. Just fly the airplane. You're a pilot. And then some very nice trim buttons here, and you'll have to put in the batteries. It's 4 AA batteries. But overall, a pretty nice little transmitter for this airplane. Another thing I want to point out is the battery. This is a no kidding 2-cell battery. It's 400 milliamps, okay? It's a heavy battery compared to some of the other lightweight ones you want. And so this is heavy enough where it's part of the center of gravity considerations for this model. Just be careful if you're using another battery, especially one that's lighter. Heavier will probably be okay. A lighter battery, you might run into an aft center of gravity situation, which you generally don't want. Now this is a 2-cell battery. A lot of people who buy this may not have a charger. They give you this charger. If you look at how thick it is, it's really almost a double charger. And it says on here 7.4 volts where you plug in here. This, in my opinion, is asking a lot of a USB charger to charge a 2-cell battery of this size. The good news is they gave you a balancing plug here. So most people that fly electric models have their own charger with a balancing plug. That's a safety issue to make sure both cells are being charged at the right rate. The standard JST connector. So I'll be using my regular charger for this just for safety and all that. If you have one, you can do it. Otherwise, experiment with that, but don't mix that up with the other chargers for the single cell batteries. It probably won't work. So give me a second, let me plug in the battery, we'll watch it powered on, and then we'll head out to the field. I've opened the battery hatch here, and per the directions, because of the gyros, within 5 seconds after you plug it in, there's no on-off switch, it's powered up. I need to put the plane down on level surface, then turn on the transmitter within 5 seconds. So let me explain that, and then I'll do that. And I'll keep the battery out, I'm not gonna bother putting it in the hatch. So we always observe the polarity. These JST connectors are key. You can't plug them in backwards. But that is all plugged in here. We put it down, and then we turn on the transmitter. Okay, then now everything's talking to each other. So there's the elevator and back, up, down, and that small amount of throw is about all we're going to need for this. The rudder, and you can notice the tail wheel moving as well. And then the ailerons, there's a lot of ailerons there, but that's the way they built it. And I'll hold it, and again, it's common with these models to arm the throttle. You have to put the throttle up, down, there's another beep, and it works. That's a good safety feature to have. And I can just tell by holding this, there's going to be tons of power. So what I want to do is with the beginner mode, watch what happens. Just let me put. Notice that as we move the model, these controls are moving. That's the gyro stabilization, trying to keep it level. And it does the same thing for the elevators and a little bit on the rudder. But the key thing is the bank. As we fly in the beginner mode, if we take this mode switch and go to expert all the way back, those gyros are turned off. So you're doing everything. I think it's going to be a very twitchy model like most small models are. But this one, it is trying to help you fly. It works in the background to have smooth flight in windy conditions or whatever. So we'll experiment with that. Again, this is the aerobatic switch, and I'm not going to fill around to that too much. So, and the other thing is, you might opt to not include the landing gear. It's going to look a lot more realistic in the air flying without landing gear. I'm putting on the landing gear because I want to do everything I can to protect this propeller. And if I don't have the landing gear, it's just always on its belly. Some damage is going to happen at some point. So I will accept the gear down. I think we'll be able to do takeoffs from the ground on this if you have a good runway. And I think that'll do a little bit towards helping out the propeller. So that's the model. It looks like a nice little model. I'm looking forward to flying it. The next time I see you, we'll be out in the field. We'll take it for a test flight. We're out at the flying field. It's a very nice day for flight. These are some pictures of the plane on the ground. Extremely realistic presentation. Take a look at it from various angles here. It's just a nice scale model. Surface is robust. And you can see with the landing gear, the black and white invasion stripes are a nice touch. The four-bladed prop is very effective. Just a nice little model. So we've plugged everything in. We're doing a control surface check. Make sure everything is free in the proper direction. And the prop, and now we're ready for a test flight. All right, take it for a test flight now. This is the No Kidding maiden flight, and we're up and away. It just flew like it was on rails. I knew instantly this was going to be a good model. There's plenty of power, plenty of bank to do the turns. Got a little bit low just to keep it within the camera angle, but again, plenty of power to raise it. I'm in the beginner mode using full gyros. Remember, in the beginner mode, the gyros work in the background, so it is pretty much transparent to you as a pilot. It just makes for a smoother flying model. In short, these small models handle like a much larger aircraft. We're coming around now for a landing, and excuse me, we'll come around now for a landing, a little bit low, but we'll go ahead and add power, and there we are in the grass. The takeoffs from the ground were just, again, you add power, off you go, and it flew just fine. So we just finished the test flight of the P-51D, the Volantex P-51D. I couldn't be more pleased. You saw on the very first flight with the gyros, it was like it was on rails, just straight and level, no trim needed at all. The ailerons, as I mentioned, are kind of big, close in, almost like flats, but you need that much for the control, so that is okay. There was plenty of elevator, didn't use too much rudder, plenty of thrust for the prop here, so there's no problems on that. It just handled very well. So, like the real P-51, you got to keep your speed up. When I was landing, just a little bit slow, it'll drop a wing, you can't recover. You saw on the last two landings, when it landed on the runway, the prop popped off as designed to prevent damage. The thing is, just keep your speed up when you land so that you have full lateral control as you land. And also, the takeoff on the landing gear was effortless. It just took off and flew fine. This is a wonderful little model. The gyros work fine. It's a wonderful plane, and good luck with yours.